With snow. You've been selling birds, so you figure out.
Good evening and welcome to the January meeting of the Rutherford County Public Safety Committee. And I hope you all are doing well and enjoyed the snow and got to play in it, everything. And that. But we'll start it off this evening and I'll ask for a motion on the minutes from the last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I have reviewed the minutes, and I would like to make the motion that we approve those.
Second.
A motion is second. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? TK?
Yes, sir.
Up first. Okay.
It don't happen but once in a blue moon.
And on your anniversary when it hits on the fourth Monday.
You have my report in front of you. It was pretty much an uneventful month, except for, like I said, the snow events that we've had. There wasn't a lot of events related to that, other than the usual increase in cars running off the road and things of that nature. So there was no major event that affected the county. Like schools were out, that type of thing. They ended up being out an entire week. So, but I did want to talk to you about one thing that you'll see on the events here, that we had a meeting with CUD regarding the Eagleville tank site. If y'all remember, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever I came here and asked you for approval for what we call the Kirkland Tower, to pay the $2,000 a month rent on that one, that I promised you a solution that wasn't going to cost us $24,000 a year. Well, I think we have one. We've been talking to CUD as well as Middle Tennessee Electric, who's also going to share at this site. I couldn't say anything until now because they had not acquired the property. Now they've acquired the 5.5 acres, 5.4 acres, and they've offered to allow us to put a communications tower on that same site. So you'll see some monies in the budget when I come back before y'all with that here in the next couple of months for next year. We're trying to do it as inexpensively as possible. Sometimes you can find a good used 180-foot tower. Sometimes you can't. It just depends on who's getting rid of one. So that's coming up. Middle Tennessee Electric is going to run all the power to it. That'll be part of their cost, as well as they're going to put the building up where all the computers as well as the radios will be housed. Ours will, of course, be the tower itself. So it's a really good deal. It'll be a permanent solution. Did I mention it won't cost us $24,000 a year?
But you didn't mention how much it was gonna cost.
A new tower, what I'll put in my budget, I'm going to tell you now, is, and I want this to be a capital project because there's other players involved, and I hopefully we'll get it done within the next fiscal year, but if we don't, I want to have it so we can do it, it will be no more than $200,000. I don't see any expenses that will bring it above that. It might be substantially less if I can get that, find somebody that's taking one down to another state agency. Like sometimes they'll give them to you for $1 and you just got to move them. The moving and re-erecting the thing can cost you between $20,000 and $50,000. It's still a lot less than $200,000. So I was really hoping Mr. Gerther, because he's still got contacts in those places. I'll be talking to him. But that was the big news for this. Some of our upcoming events, we got a few meetings that are coming up. The biggest one, two being on there, is starting Monday through Wednesday. I'll be out for the Emergency Management Association of Tennessee conference. It will be held in Sevierville this year at the Wilderness of the Smoky Lodge. And then our own local emergency planning committee meeting is for the 7th of February. And we actually have a guy coming in to speak to us out of Texas. It's not costing anything, except maybe at lunch, to talk about E-Plan. E-Plan is how all the 160 some odd Tier 2 sites in this county report their hazardous materials. It's a requirement. So that's how they report, and some of them need a little more education on it. So having this gentleman here will be a good thing, and it'll also help bring in those people. Because what you want to do at LEPC, you always have a good showing by public safety. Larry's always going to be there. But it's the people that own the methyl ethyl kill you dead stuff that I want in the room. And they don't always show up, no matter how good a snacks I get. So I kind of want them there too. So having something like this will help draw them in as much as possible. So that's a big thing there. We did have 5 events responses. I won't bore you with details on any of those. But if you do have any questions on them as you thumb through, I'll be ready to answer those. Subject to your questions, that's my report.
What about the Walter Hill Dam?
That was interesting. We got a call that it looked like it had something loose, like something was leaking. The water was over it, we had a lot of rains. And my office, it's not like we go out and see the Walter Hill Dam on very often. And as it turns out, that little ledge that's halfway down it was causing the spillway to look like it did, or the spillage over the spillway to look like it did. That's all it was. It was something that was built that way. And we talked to the experts, the people responsible for the dam, and even they thought, oh yeah, that's not the way it's supposed to be. Well, it is supposed to be that way. So to answer your question, there's nothing wrong with the dam. Now, the city of Murfreesboro is going to do some work to it, I think, in the spring. I think they budgeted $400,000 or $500,000 to do some repairs to it, but it does not include this. So, and they were out there the week prior. So this got a little bit confused, but as it turns out, we don't have a problem.
So the people downstream can quit packing the food?
They don't have to pack and
That's
move.
good.
We actually looked at that, and we had a lot of good support from Mike Hughes with Plans and Engineering, looking at if we did have a problem. Believe it or not, there was only a few structures at all that would have been affected if that dam breaches. And even those are a good 30, 40 foot back away from the shore. So we don't really have a big issue with it, because I was thinking about an evacuation, to be honest with you, based on what we first saw. But it was just a misunderstanding. Everything turned out okay.
Any further questions for Mr. Cass?
I make a motion to approve this report as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yeah, good night.
Me too. I guess that's not gonna be like the dam up in Kentucky if it
No,
gets.
sir.
Oh, it must be in a hurry.
No, I feel like I'm coming up. Excuse me, I'm fighting a cold.
Look at that. Every time, every time this.
You hit it?
On mine?
And it comes up that way.
Yeah, you tried to repair it, yeah. I've tried up.
Don't like me. This last month, the month of December, we had 6 structure fires. We had 225 EMS calls. We had 32 motor vehicle accidents with injuries. We had 41 MVAs without injuries and 4 extrications, for a total call volume of 431 calls for the month of December. For the entire year, from January 1st to December 31st, we had 78 structure fires, 53 mobile home fires, or car fires, and 62 and natural vegetation fire, and 56 outside rubbish fires. We ran a total of 2,628 medical calls. We had 390 motor vehicle accidents with injuries, 345 motor vehicle accidents with injuries without injuries, and 38 extrications. We had a total call volume for the year for Rutherford County Fire Rescue of 5,032 calls. The next sheet is showing all the volunteers and their training hours and run numbers. Countywide, there's a total of 110 structure fires, 138 brush fires, with about 49 to 50 acres burnt, 93 vehicle fires, 21 hazmats. We actually did 13 swiftwater rescues, and I think a lot of that was pertaining to the flooding. And had a total of 1,106 MVAs in Rutherford County this year. 50 of those were extrications, 215 mutual aids, excuse me, 183 false alarms, 2,628 medical calls, and then for a total call volume of 6,312. The next sheet is what we send to the codes department, showing the damaged structures that received damage because of fire. Of course, they'll be required to pull a permit to repair those. And then the last sheet is showing our fire investigation sheet and most of those are the same structures, and showing exactly what caused that, which is the biggest cause we've had here lately is the extreme cold and people trying to keep their pets warm. Can't tell you how many times we've had houses burn up because they put a light on the back porch or the deck or something to keep the pet warm, and it can't get too close to something, heat up, catch fire. So there's some message we try to get out on the news here lately about if you're that concerned about your pet, bring them inside, put them in a garage, put them in the barn, just to make things, get them out of the wind. But we have so many, and a lot of these, 4 or 5 of those I know were heat related. We were trying to keep a pet warm or had a heater too close to something. And with the exception of the budget amendment, that's my report.
What's an illegal use of an outdoor heater inside a business? And that was a commercial business?
That was a commercial building out on Lebanon Highway. They have a little car dealership, and they have a little shed out back where they pull cars in and detail them. It's got a real low ceiling in it. If you've ever seen these propane tanks, they have a propane tank in the bottom. It's got a small neck goes up, a big dome comes out the top. They use them a lot of times on outdoor events. That's what they're used for.
Yeah.
He had one stuck inside the garage, about that far from the metal ceiling, and heated the metal up till it was red hot and it caught the rafters on fire. And thankfully, our truck at Walt Hill was there within 2 minutes and put it out and contained it to the rafter. But it was just a thing. I told him, I said, if you're going to heat, make sure you put something low to the ground and away from everything. But I mean, it was just those. If you've seen the domes are about that big and it gets red hot, you can light a cigar off of it, and of course it just heated up the sheet metal on the ceiling. It caught the wood on fire up under it.
What is it? You can't legislate stupid?
Well, people just don't think. They just don't think until it's too late.
Further questions for Chief? Now we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve his report. Second.
A motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
And I have a budget amendment.
Very good. Just a quick
Okay.
one. Tire fires, where they burn old tires. You run into many of them?
No, it's illegal. Highly illegal.
That's not what I asked, though.
Yeah, not in a while. We used to.
Yeah, I was
A
gonna
lot of
say-
times, years ago, some of your farmers would take tires and throw them on a pile, get it going good, but haven't had a lot of that. To be honest with you, I haven't had a lot of calls and seen that in a while. Because when we did, we started getting more out in it, talking. We'd explain to some of the farmers that was illegal and they didn't need to do it, and they said they were sorry, and that's why they quit doing it.
Why don't you tell people about TVs? It's illegal to throw them out in the road and stuff like that.
Well, as long as they're not burning them, don't you need to talk to Mac about that.
Okay.
Mac will not pick them up. Any more questions?
Explain your budget amendment.
I got want to move $5,000 out of vehicle maintenance into training. We've done quite a bit of training this year for firefighters, and we're running a little bit over budget, so I need to move the $5,000 out of vehicle maintenance into training.
You heard the request, it's all within his budget.
I move we approve the request.
Second.
Questions of Chief Farley? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
And one more thing, I spoke with the mayor this afternoon for about an hour, and I've been in contact with CTASC, and they feel like it's a good time right now. I'd like to ask your permission to write a saver grant. We're coming up in February, and the saver grant will be for 15 more firefighters. This will be a 2-year grant, fully funded, 100%. We'll pay their benefits and salary for 2 years. Then after that 2 years, the county can elect to keep it or they can do away with it. But it's no cost to the county. Talking at the mayor with their growth, we keep talking about getting as large as Hamilton County. We felt the need to go ahead and apply, see if we could get 15 more and put a station out. We're kind of looking toward the west of the county. but we're just gonna try to, right now, as far as being specific, is just trying to be more strategic about where we're gonna try to place one, put one, where it'd be the most benefit. But there's no guarantee we'll get it, but hopefully we're gonna try.
We didn't get the last one you put in.
No, we put one in, and the Barfield station was funded by a grant for 2 years. And we hired 2 veterans, and we got them for 3 years because we hired veterans. And so that lasted 3 years, and then we tried to write one for Walter Hill, and we didn't get one. But I believe that with the new CAD we have, we're able to put a lot of data and information about response times and distances and stuff. And I think all that new information will be very vital to us.
You heard the request.
Do we have property in the west part of the county to put this on?
We've got several places.
You're talking up where, somewhere around Almaville or
Well,
something?
we got one on Alma Road, we got one on Nashville Highway. Of course, we're buying school property every day. So we just want to try to, of course, I know by the time we do something or say something now, it'll be a year before we get the new grant, so this will come out of the new commission, new mayor. And so, if we do get the grant, we'll start looking at where we're a good vital place to put that at. Because, we've got 2 full-time stations pretty much covering the entire county with the assistance of the volunteers. But most of them are active in the afternoon meetings.
Well, these places you have, well, is there any chance they'll be annexed in any time in the near future?
Well, I say that's something we need to consider too. We don't want to go out and put a station somewhere that's going to be developed and be pulled into the city limits. That's something we kind of
We'll
want
be
to.
paying for 15 firefighters.
That's why we want to be very strategic about where we put it at.
I have a question. Y'all had any issues with the CAD system in terms of the boundaries? Because we had a firehouse on the hill above on my street. The street and one side of the road, which has no houses right now, but soon will, is in the city. The house itself is technically in the county right now. We had both 15 who got there first, and then Smyrna, who sent a lot of resources, got there. But I got to looking myself, and I talked to Brian with OIT. The map, the public display of map does not show updated city boundaries. So I'm wondering,
The maps on the CAD, now if you look at Murfreesboro City and the Sheriff's Office and EMS, we're all on the same system, which is TriTech. I don't believe Smyrna is on that same system. I
no,
might be wrong.
this is the public-facing GIS map. Does not show several parcels right now that have been annexed, so therefore it still shows it in the county, although it's in the city. And I'm just wondering, is that showing up? And Mr. Robertson couldn't quite answer my question. Is that showing up just on the public-facing side, or is that showing up in the CAD, so for any comes to dispatch?
Well, we've not had any problems with the CAD as far as maps. And if it was a Murfreesboro, if there's a question, we were both sent just to make sure. Of course.
Well, it was good that they both sent. It was a small fire got put out.
But,
It is, once again, it becomes a duplication. As we get more and more of that, who do we send?
And I don't know if that might be a better question for Keith Lauer or some of the sheriff's office, but as far as the maps, but I think is North Star the
The mapping is controlled by the city in conjunction with the county. There's like 3 different people involved in the mapping right now. We do not control that. We are in the process of moving on the CAD system where the CAD will be divested and we will take control of our CAD for the county. At that point in time, then we've got a mapping system that we're going to put in that's going to eliminate all the problems that we've got.
Yeah, because I see it as a problem for
It is a
you
problem.
and him both.
It is a problem.
And maybe EMS.
It's probably more so.
Although
a problem-
EMS covers every
Well,
place.
it's more so of a problem for EMS and fire than it is for us. Although it causes us a problem. We've got a mapping system that we go off of, and we use 911 mapping a lot and don't use the CAD mapping right
But I think on that specific fire, Allenville asked for some money. I think is what he said.
Yeah, it's not it's just, it's not a matter of the response. This
Yeah.
response was great.
Well, the reason they sent both of them is because
But-
Allenville asked for their help.
We're moving in a direction and we will eliminate that problem.
But to answer your question, we haven't, as far as I know.
That problem will be eliminated.
Sounds like there is a problem possibly, and it's going to get solved. Yes.
We had a question about the Safer grant. He would like permission to go ahead and put in for the grant. Guess it's up to us for a yea or a nay.
And remember, if we do receive the grant, it'll come back for full commission, public safety for approval. So just because you vote for it now, don't mean you have to vote for it to get it.
I think we've always voted for them when it happened, even after the
Yeah,
2
y'all
years.
been very good to us.
Well, I'll make a motion to allow him to make a grant for, what was it, 15 new firefighters.
I'll second that.
Motion second. Further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Before the chief gets away, Mr. Chairman, I want to bring up a subject that the chief is familiar with. And I know we're waiting in the wings, if you'll just, just a little bit back there. But this is something that has just come about in the last week. And the chief and myself have talked about this, but we've had some of my constituents that have contacted me. It deals with Sheffield Park, which is located out here on Veterans Parkway. Now, for those of you who may not know where Sheffield Park is, it is basically, it's in the city limits of Murfreesboro, and you may be asking why I'm involved in this, whatever. Well, I have constituents that live in that area out there. But it's a new development for the county here. It's a new annexed area out there as far as the county is concerned, but I got a call Friday morning from a gentleman out there that was desperate for some help. And I told him I'd go out there Friday afternoon to look to see what was going on, and I went out there. And that's one reason I'm talking the way I'm talking today, because I went out there Friday afternoon. It seems that as they are developing that area and that subdivision out there, as they go along, they're pushing up trees and brush and piling it and burning it as they go. Well, you know, over the last week, we've had quite a bit of snow. And what they pushed and burned is sitting there, and it's all wet and soggy, and it's sitting there just smoldering and burning, and you have nothing but ash and continuous smoke. Well, the thing is, this has been going on for a good while, not just this week. When I pulled into the subdivision out there, the ash was falling everywhere. I drove back to where this was. When I pulled into the subdivision, you know, it was 60 degrees or better Friday, and you would think on a day like that, after we've had a week of nothing but snow and temperatures down to zero, you'd see people out walking and carrying on and enjoying themselves. You saw none of that. In fact, I didn't find anybody to talk to other than individuals out there burning what was going on and clearing land and what it was. I have a dark gray truck. It became a light gray truck as I pulled out there. There was that much ash and the smoke was that thick. But I have here the emails I'm getting from people who live out in that area, and it's not just affecting the people in that subdivision, but people across the road. Saturday morning, I come back into a meeting I had at 8:30 here at MTSU. The smoke, when you have a humidity and no wind, it had drifted all the way to Publix and over that way. It looks somewhat like some of the forest fires we've had here. That's what's going on with this. Now, what I'm bringing up here, I know this is a city issue and what they have to deal with. But what I'm looking at, we have an open burning situation here. As we continue to develop in this county, we're going to have more and more of this. I know they have permits for open burning. You can do open burning, but open burning is controlled through our Forestry Service in the state of Tennessee. It was designed to protect woodland. It was designed to protect the forest. It was designed to prevent anything from catching on fire and burning up the whole neighborhood and everywhere. It wasn't designed for the situation we have as far as an environmental situation. These people right here, what they are writing, for instance, one of them right here talks about the fact they cannot turn on their bathroom fans out there. If you turn on your vent fans in the bathroom, it all comes into the bathroom. They have people out there that are going to the emergency room due to the fact that they have sinusitis. They have everything else in the world as far as respiratory problems that are starting to happen because these fires are within maybe 120 feet of the house in some situations. And the smoke is continuing to build there. What I talked to Mr. Farley about is I understand the fact that you've got to remove these trees, you've got to remove this as you continue to build, but we need to come up with some type of system where if we're going to do this in such a large proportion next to an area where you have maybe 100 houses already built, we've got to come up with some way to look at this in a way that we're going to protect the people that are already living there. And we've talked about this, that we don't have the answer exactly on how to do this, but we think that we maybe need to be getting in a way that we start discussing this and talking about it.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
I had the same thing, different municipality, in this case Smyrna. Subdivision being developed about a half mile to the south of me, the wind's coming out of the south. I had several complaints from constituents this weekend also. They could not get out and walk. They could not, they were having trouble with breathing issues. A lot of the people are about my age on my street and they have those types of issues. So it's not just a one locale
No,
issue.
that's what we know.
We had the same thing. It took about a day for me to figure out exactly where it was coming from. I thought to start with my neighbor's fireplace had some kind of issue, but no, she didn't have an issue, and the wind was blowing the wrong way, so we finally figured it out. One part of the subdivision, they ground it up and mulched it all. But the other part, they bulldozed it up and burned it. And like you said, it just was ash and smoke and bad situation.
Yeah. And what, and as I had told some individuals, I said, I live on a farm and we have burnt brush pile and done open burning like that, but I was brought up that you always check the wind, you checked what you were doing, you looked at what you were burning. If it was too wet to burn, where you're going to have a lot of smoke, you were not going to be able to burn it completely up, you waited until you could do that. I've burnt brush piles where you can burn it fairly fast if it's dry, but if it's had 2 inches of snow on it for 3 or 4 days, it's not going to burn all that fast. So what we were talking about, I talked to Chief Farley on this right there, is that we need to be looking into this for sure as far as the county is concerned, because this isn't going to change, as Commissioner Gorley says this, wherever we are, it's going to continue to spread. And look at this. We each spend $9 a year for our emissions on our vehicles. And we're driving vehicles that have some of the most sophisticated computerized emission controls there are. But yet, we're out here burning something, pushing it over on people that there's no control on it in what we're doing right now. And I'm going to tell you, it was pretty rough. I went back for 2 days. I went back Saturday to look again just to see. One day you think, oh, that's a problem. But when you go back on the second day and it's still there, and you still got the same problem, and then the individuals who are doing this, their equipment had caught on fire and the fire department was out there trying to put their equipment out. This is a problem. We have one of the residents that's here tonight, sitting here with us, and I'm glad he come here to do this. But, yeah, and of course, Chief Farley, his hands are tied. My hands are tied. I did notice that one of the individuals did get a response from Mayor McFarland, He says that they are going to be looking, he's passed this over to the city manager as well as the fire chief, and they're going to get staff together to find a proactive way to address it and go that way. What I'm suggesting is that if there's some way that we can look at a possibility of giving our fire chief to maybe work with the city, because he's going to take everybody, it's going to take everybody together working on this to see if there's some way we can put some teeth into this to address this issue. I'm not looking at, saying we're going to stop outdoor burning. We're not looking at that totally. We're looking at a situation where you're involved with a large number of residents around you. You've got to be, there's got to be some direction you've got to follow before you start going through all of this. So I wanted to hear some other ideas and what you're involved there. I'm glad Commissioner Gorley has been involved in this too.
Well, it seems like to me, the first logical thing to do would be to talk to whoever is there in charge for the developer, this development. And I mean, you don't have to pile everything up in one pile. You can spread it a little as they're doing it and use some common sense.
Chief's been there.
Well, I have people call me all the time, their children have asthma, they have emphysema and other respiratory issues, and they can't breathe, can't go to school. Had a man call me the other night in Lewis Downs and said they're burning out there, and Ashley's getting all of his new truck and burning the clear coat off of it. Said he talked to the developer told him it's tough. He's going to have to live with it. So, I mean, they try to go the right way, and they get mad at me, and my hands are tied. I mean, if they got a burn permit, there's nothing I can do except put the fire out. And I brought it up to y'all several times about people burning shrubbery and everything, and I think that we need to have some kind of ordinance in high-density subdivisions.
This is the city, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's in a subdivision, but I'm just saying that issue, it does happen out in the county that's away from the city with all the development going on. And people call and are upset because their child can't go to school or can't get out, and it becomes a health hazard. So, I would support something like that, not against the farmers, but in a lot of high-density subdivisions, we need some kind of regulation.
With our county landfill going to close when it get worse, they won't have anywhere to carry their
The
yard
biggest
waste
thing
or
is it's
anything.
easier for people to burn it than it is to haul it.
Yeah.
And of course, state law says as long as you burn vegetation on your property, it's legal.
Somebody might want to contact the Mercersburg Woodworkers Club. If it's hardwood, they would always like to come get it and take the trees off. There's various woodworking clubs around Middle Tennessee that would haul it and cut it.
Well, that out there, I think, is a lot of probably scrub timber that's located in that right there. But what you've got in a situation in a construction site like that, you're not just pushing wood down, you're pushing a lot of dirt with it and things of that too. So you're getting a variety of things that's involved in it.
When you request a residential burn permit, there's a size limitation to that burn permit. It can't be like larger than 8 feet or something like that. I can't remember specifically what the size of the pile of stuff you're going to burn is. Is there a restriction for commercial
That I
burning?
can't tell you. That I can't tell
You're
you.
talking about the city of Mercersburg?
I'm talking about anywhere. When you put in that, when you request a burn permit, it says, is your burn pile no longer bigger than this by this? You have to click, no, it's not, to get your burn permit.
Yeah, you're talking about when you go to the Forestry Service and click on that one.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, forestry will give burn permits out in 35-mile-an-hour winds because, and I've had discussions with them because they don't care, they don't respond. So it's they decide to issue them, and we had 35-mile-an-hour winds one day and looked up and had 213 permits in Rutherford County for burning. So they police, they give them out, they don't police it. That's the issue.
It's never failed every time I've started to burn something. It'll be still as calm as can be, and then as soon as I start, the wind comes up.
You get that started early in the morning, because about mid-morning, you can have a little wind picked up.
But I did want to bring this to the attention. We have to do something because this is out of hand, and those people out there are suffering. I went out there for 2 days and suffered with them, and I'm paying the results of it myself. And it is serious. I mean, it's deadly serious out there. We're in a flu season right now, and I'd hate to be out there with the flu and having sat out there in that, I was in Chapel Hill that Friday evening after I'd been out there Friday, and I just mentioned it, and some lady turns around and says, my daughter's out there, and they had to leave other night because of the fact that the smoke was so bad in their homes. So, and this is just one, and just as we've mentioned here, it's going to be happening elsewhere, and it's going to be happening in the counties as well as these developments there. So, what I'm saying, I would just like, if there's some way that we can give our fire chief a way to look at this, to see what others are doing, if there is something out there that can be done.
Well, if it's a
And
health
bring it back.
hazard, like you were saying, it needs to go to the state. And they've got the state health department, you get a state fire marshals that
Yeah.
you're looking at health hazards.
Yeah.
And TDAG won't come out and look at it unless you get 4 or 5 complaints, and they're really just doing a lot of illegal burning. And, like people burn plastic, they burn garbage, and all that stuff's illegal.
This is people aren't using common sense either on how to burn. They're just, well, they're wanting $1. It's gonna be a lot of the individuals themselves that are gonna have to band together and they'll say, they're gonna have to file a complaint against the developer, the builders who all's doing it. And that'll take something like the state, especially when it's in one jurisdiction and it's affecting another when they're, the properties are
Well, right
closed.
down through Veterans Law, that's been annexed to the
Yeah.
city anyway, so.
But right past it.
Yeah,
is-
it carries.
Unfortunately, it doesn't stop at the city limit.
Yeah. But there's not,
Yeah.
tell the city to build a wall.
Typically, it's banned up down there at city limits.
That won't do it.
It would be happening.
Well, I look forward to more discussions on that.
Okay.
I'll be
Well,
with the
is
chief.
that something Public Works should look into too?
We could go to Public Works.
Good evening.
That's bad
All right, you have in front of you all of our reports for December. On this first yearly activity report, the majority of the information that you probably had a chance to look at and have questions about is the amount of money that we're still waiting on from our counties. We have zero concern about that. The holidays, I believe, has caused a delay, and we expect to get most of these checks from these several counties next week, and none of them are in arrears, so that's not anything that we have a concern about. Our STD report is pretty average. I don't think there's anything to talk about on those. The next thing I'd like to bring your attention to is that our parenting classes are getting ready to form. They're going to be running from February 1st to March 8th. They are on Thursday nights from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Juvenile Service Center, and if anyone is interested in signing up for these free classes, they can call our main number, which is 615-898-7954, and ask about those free parenting classes. And subject to that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Daily attendance is up.
Yes, it is. It is. And
They had to buy more Christmas presents or something. Don't know. It jumped.
It did.
Those last couple of months.
we had some busy employees.
I want to thank you for the pamphlets you gave me. I went by there and picked up some parenting pamphlets and gave them out to a person, and she came back and said they really helped her.
Oh, well, fabulous.
So, to the television audience, you can go by there and pick up pamphlets free.
We have all sorts of brochures and pamphlets that we have more in boxes and we can refill.
Retail, well, they help out a lot. They're up-to-date, current situations that are, written about in those pamphlets. So thank you for helping out.
Glad we can help.
I'll make a motion to approve the report as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening.
Evening, Stockton.
I was gonna try to make sure I didn't sit in the same place TK did.
Yeah.
Talking about having a fever. That's right. I work in a jail, I have a 20-year-old and a 20-month-old. I'm already behind the 8 ball there. First thing we have is our minutes from our January board meeting. A couple things we discussed, some food service equipment repairs. It's going to be a little expensive, but I mean, we've got so far plenty in the budget to take care of it. And then our mock audit, ACA audit, American Correctional Association audit, we just went through with Davidson County Sheriff's Office and passed that with flying colors. We intentionally did not give the building a deep clean before they came because I wanted to kind of see where we were, and they were still impressed with the sanitation there. So now we're working right now on repainting and giving it a good deep cleaning before our actual audit, which is the first week in February, so that's coming up. Second, we have our work release report. Work release is full and still going well.
Explain Second Chance.
Second Chance is a partnership that we're working on with Chattanooga State, and we've got 10 of our inmates and then 2 from the sheriff's office, and it's basically a pretty intensive program where Chattanooga State is going to come in and teach these guys a skill, and they'll at the end of it get a certification, and we're going to be hopefully able to put them in jobs once they're released. Some of the jobs that we'll be partnering with are Calsonic. Nissan was one. I think they may still be working with it. I'm not sure. Are they?
I don't think we've got Nissan, but we've got several other manufacturers.
The Kasai
Kasai.
working within Nissan. But there's a couple other manufacturers that'll be taking some of these guys once they're released, and they'll have that certification.
But these are these skilled jobs that they're
will be.
running on in a manufacturing environment, not a housing environment.
Right. I think the pay was no lower than $12 an hour.
$12 is the pay, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a good opportunity for some of these guys.
Why is it called Second Chance? Is that,
Well, I think that's what Beth Duffield came up with, and it's
okay,
just...
they weren't kicked out or something, and now they got
This is-
No,
no, they
I
had
think
the
it's a
first chance.
second chance
First
in
chance in life.
society.
Yeah, first chance, well, was when they had, before they got incarcerated.
Oh,
Now
okay.
this is their second chance, getting back out of being
Right.
incarcerated.
Okay,
Second chance at society.
okay, all right.
So that's going pretty good. That's they do that class once a week and come in, and it's several hours, and it's held at our facility. We transport inmates from the sheriff's office over to our facility, and they all kind of go into the same area and work on computers, and then there's a practical piece to it also. So it's a pretty interesting program. Our yearly activity report's next, and there's no significant changes on that. And then last is our monthly worker report, and that's it'll reflect monthly savings of about around approximately $95,000. Our total population right now, as of today, was 135. It's 111 males and 24 females. No budget amendments or requests. That should just about do for our report.
It's basically this year, last year, that your work release program really ratcheted up with the amount that we're.
Yes, sir.
I remember when it was only 4 or
Right.
5.
Yeah, we're I think this morning we had 28. A couple of the positions over the holidays, when they would have shut down, they didn't take the position back, so we're just waiting until the next couple months and it'll step up a little bit more. And we're looking at a couple more companies too, so probably going to be putting some more to work.
Questions for Superintendent Cope? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Who would approve the report?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Good, how are y'all?
Good.
I don't know which, I think it's all jumbled up on the system there, so.
First one I got probation.
Okay. Well, our first, we'll go with that one first, it's easy. So our total expenditures for the month of December of 2017, county probation, was $148,019.89. The reason for the increase this month was we had that extra paycheck that comes with every 26 weeks, we get 26 paychecks, so it just happened to fall in December, so that's why our expenditures were up more than usual. That's about a $30,000 hit, so to speak. Total collections on just the probation cost for the month was $75,614.97. Christmas time, we always have a little downturn toward Christmas. Most people buy presents instead of paying off their probation costs. However, we were still able to bring in right at almost $175,000 in our court cost fines, fees, and everything else. So that put us in the black for $26,137.29. The other documents are just the expenditures and then the revenue generation, just to back that up.
Do we want to take any questions on the report? Well, let's go take the probation report and we'll entertain a motion on it.
Motion to approve the report is presented.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
On our recovery courts, we have the stats in front of you, but you can take a look at that. In our drug court, we're increasing our numbers steadily. In the month of December, we had a total of 50 participants in the program. Still, the majority of what we're seeing are the opiates at 38%. Behind that is marijuana and alcohol. We do expect that number to stay the same, if not increase. The thing that's alarming is our population is getting younger. So we have 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. I still call them kids, but in the program now. So it's, and they've been using it since they were 12, 13, 14 years old. So it's hard to train their brain and to talk to them. I mean, they still act and still are at the development level of a young teenager. So it's just a matter of time. We've had a lot more overdose coming in out of jail before they get into treatment. So we're looking at trying to push them inpatient prior to coming into our program in order to help offset that. On our DUI court, we remain steady. We had a total of 42 participants. We're getting more and more DUIs coming in. I know it's still low at 2%, but for opiates and as well as heroin for their arrest. Our veterans courts remaining about the same. We do have roughly 5 or 6 new veterans coming into the program, hopefully in February, January, February, end of this month, beginning of next month. And so our numbers will go up quite a bit. And then for our mental health court, we are constantly climbing. We're just having to slow it down a little bit just because when we have one staff member assigned to mental health court,
and she's drowning. But it is a good group. It is a great program.
You're overall having pretty good success with that too, right?
We are really. I think we've only terminated 3 or 4. It's just pretty remarkable when you look at it, the population that we're dealing with. I'd say half of our clients are paranoid schizophrenics or have a multiple personality disorder type. So it's been very successful.
And you think the veteran court's being
It is.
successful?
It is. The hard part is we're based on how many veterans are arrested. So it's a good thing when we don't have a lot of our veterans arrested. But I think there are a few out there. Some of them, the charges we just cannot accept. So some of them are very violent charges, and we're just not able to take those. But I mean, we're taking as many as we possibly can.
Just as a rough estimate or count on you got have roughly in all your courts, DUI, drug, veterans, etc., probation, you got roughly 140 in those courts.
And I think if we got another staff member in mental health, we would double that number, if not triple. And in drug court, we're trying to increase that number. Hopefully this time next year, we'll be at 100, if not higher.
And there's enough out there that you can
There's a
fill
ton.
them.
There's a ton. And the more prescriptions that are written, we had a meeting not too long ago with some of the doctors. I'm not going to name the facility we were at, but part of the opioid problem from the hospital standpoint that they were telling us is in lieu of patient care. So we were told that hospitals and doctors are still writing prescriptions for opiates because they don't want a bad report. Because then the insurance companies and patients stop paying, and they think that the hospital didn't treat their pain, but the doctor's not treating their pain. So they're going to continue to write. So it boils down to money.
You get hooked.
It is. And I mean, hopefully with some of the taking the prescriptions, maybe you can make them 5-day, increments that you only have a script every 5 days before you have to go back in. That will help offset. But it's a money generating business. Pretty candy. As long as it's pretty candy. Yeah.
You have to realize everybody that's in his mental health court and drug and DUI court are not in his jail. And it's decreasing the liability in his jail. These people, especially the ones in mental health court, do not belong behind bars.
Incarcerated.
It's a growth industry, unfortunately.
Well, you brought up a good point too, Trey, that don't let the numbers become the narrative, because you can't take some of the veterans that are arrested for, obviously we don't want to cheer arrests to make our numbers look good. And I think, to your point, you don't want people looking at the numbers saying, well, it's so low, it's not worth contributing or growing it. Yeah, it's you got to understand the whole story about what it is impacting in a positive way in our community. And that's part of it ties in with the mental health and veterans courts and all that. It's a good report. It's good for our community to hear how that's impacting. And obviously, the governor holding a press conference today about opiates and the addictions, it's front and center for everybody about how dangerous and how our future is being shaped by overprescriptions and money and things like that. It's just tragic would be an understatement. It's a travesty and a sin.
The lawsuits are coming though.
Yeah.
It's all
They are.
doctors on up through the pharmacies, everything up to the manufacturers and where they're coming. So that's going to. But I look at it a different way. I've been up here longer than anybody, but still, I remember 8 years ago when we only had the DUI court. We had drug court. I think was the first, whichever one was first. But I mean, if we had 30 involved in it, that was a huge number.
Yeah.
And now we're hitting 140. So if we hit a 50% recidivism rate in there, that's still, we're having 70 people now are not coming back.
You mentioned it, Trey. I don't want to put numbers on you, but I'd be curious to know, you mentioned if there was an additional staff, how many more people could we help, or how much more could they take on? You said doubled or tripled or what? I'd be really curious to know what's an accurate representation of that now that we're coming into budget season, because Deputy Mayor, you nailed it. I mean, it's incarceration is there for a reason, but it should not be a life sentence for mental health and things like you want to try to help people, and that's what we should be doing. So, you know, those numbers help me better understand how are we impacting people in a positive way that can get help they need, because we're able to provide, you know, budgeted monies that go towards something like that.
Yes, sir. And I can tell you, we receive anywhere from 15 to 25 applications a month for mental health. The biggest challenge that we have for our mental health population is there is a limited number of group homes available in the state. We only have one mental health hospital left that will take them, but for the most part, the state and the federal government have adopted a policy that they feel it's better for mental health patients to live back in the community in a smaller setting. And there's just not a lot for them. I mean, $700 a month that they're getting off of Social Security is not going to pay for a whole lot.
Right.
And then that's, you know, hopefully training them to go get medicated. And they're missing their appointments, and that's when they get back, and it's a revolving door at the jail, just for petty type of crimes. But that's what it is.
Yeah.
You said something a minute ago. You said a lot of these individuals you're seeing have been using since they were like 12 years old. That, you know, that alarms me. It also says that we need to be going back and mitigating this issue a lot sooner than we are. We need to be dealing with this issue in our schools and educating these kids. We need to find out why a 12-year-old needs to escape reality. Because that's exactly what, you know, yes, we have an opioid issue right now, but we really have a substance abuse issue. The substance varies from time to time, and that was kind of what I was trying to make the other night when I voted against, contrary to the other 20 members of the commission, against a lawsuit, because I don't think we'll be able to sue our way out of this issue. I think we're going to have to find some kind of program that works and starts early. You know, you've got to start with a child early. My daughter went over to Israel when she got out of medical school and spent the summer there at Hebrew University studying psychological trauma. Those kids experience trauma that might cause them to, on a daily basis, if you're in southern or northern Israel, kids routinely get rocket attacks, et cetera. They start there, but they deal with it. They have mitigation programs that start with those kids early on to keep them from becoming substance abusers, learn how to deal with the issues. And we've got to, and this is more for schools probably than you're just seeing the results of it, but till we do something further back, I don't think we're going to get out of this issue. We're going to continue to have a substance abuse issue. The drug of choice is going to vary from time to time. Right now it's opiates because they're easy to obtain, and that's something we need to deal with. But if it's not that, it'll be detergent pods, you know, or whatever, you know. Why does a kid feel the need to escape reality?
Right. And there's a number of different factors for children that we see, but a large part of it goes back to when dealing with children and kids like that, substance abuse is you have to have the parents' permission in order to do that. A lot of times the parents themselves have a substance abuse disorder. They're absent. They don't have no one in the home that's willing to do it. So
that's where we probably need to be looking at state laws and federal laws and looking at, like I said, further back, because by the time they're 20-something years old and get to you, it becomes really difficult.
It's a process. It is. It's a change.
Anything else for us?
I have nothing else. Working on our budgets this year. Thank you all for your support in the new building. That'll be a tremendous asset for the office going forward. I cannot thank you all enough for that. So I do, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate that. We're just preparing for our upcoming audit for our licensure in February. That's my report.
Since you mentioned that, I mentioned it earlier, but I don't know if everybody heard it, but in here, we'll be starting budgets next month, and it'll be like we did the last couple of years. About half we'll have it next month, and the others, if they don't have a budget amendment, all they do is have to send in a report on here. The other half will have them the next month, and then the next month, the sheriff will have it all to himself. It just breaks it down and cuts down the long nights for a lot of people. Okay, especially us, right? Okay. All right, so we need the rest of the reports, the mental health, DUI, and drug court. I can have a motion on those.
Make a motion, we approve all those reports you just mentioned.
Second.
And a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trevor.
Sheriffs.
Cool.
You're sitting in the blue chair, right? Is that what it is?
She wants some time off.
Sounds like it does.
Before we start, let me just ask, don't the SROs, don't they have a lot of drug, oh, I don't want to say drug interdiction?
They have,
drug-
they do drug classes.
classes
yes.
with them? Everything can be done via health.
They're very much into that.
Do the amendment first.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
We are now issuing juvenile citations, and they're like, no, they're this size, not bigger, but we need a little money to purchase those citation books. And I'm gonna move $2,500 from office equipment and printing and forms.
Y'all heard the request, it's all in there.
Make a motion to approve the budget request as presented.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes. Anything in the budget's out of whack?
Well, I think good. I get, have to call Lisa, I sometimes go, are you sure?
All right. So if y'all want to take a quick look at them, and then we'll take a motion on the report figures. Food total.
I think they must have put them on a dime.
Must be, that's what it looks like. Okay. If everything's okay on our report, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the report as presented.
Second.
A motion, a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. You asked a question at the last meeting about the board bills, state board bills.
Mm-hmm.
And we are paid from the state through August. September, October has been submitted for payment. And November's in the process of being completed to be submitted, and then December will be worked on. So we are paid from the state through August of this year.
Roughly, how many state inmates have we been averaging?
About 252, 255, it fluctuates, but we've been up to 270. We got rid of one today, which is not a lot, but at least it's one.
Mhm.
We continually, along with all the other counties, are constantly talking to the state and see if we can get that space.
We've been averaging in the jail roughly.
Well, today we're up. We had we're about 877 through noon today, which we've been averaging around 850, 859, somewhere in that neighborhood. So we've had an influx here lately. In the last 24-hour period, we had 892 come through. So we've had about 20 that's come through, been booked, been released. We're seeing an influx right now. But it's just it's a blip today, so tomorrow it can be down. I don't know. We're going to take a look and see. We get 3 looks a day at what our inmate population is. And then the other question you asked on the gas bill last month, there's a negative November, December. What they did in October is for some reason they decided they wanted to do an estimated bill and didn't read the meter. And so they estimated very high, and so now we're getting credit for the last 2 months. So to offset that high estimate. So that indicated why we went into the negative during that month. So I think that was all the questions that we had from last meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Good.
Good evening. Reporting for the month of December, we had 12 injuries that required medical attention. See from your report there, those types of injuries that they were. That brings us for the year to date to a total of 212. And of that 212, 131 were OSHA recordable. 56 of them were restricted days, 31 lost time days, and 44 other. Compared to the 2 previous years, we had 210 in 2017, in 2016 we had 197, and 2015 we had 187. So you can see we've had some slight increase. Of course, we've also had an increase in personnel also in the county. As far as the incurred dollars, right now, of course, those incurred dollars for 2017 have not matured yet, but they presently stand at $703,000 compared to $635 last year and $453 the previous year. For December, the 12 injuries, the total incurred dollars there is $23,950. The Board of Education had 5 injuries, and total incurred dollars there were $6,700. And the county had the other 7, and the total incurred dollars there were $17,250. And of those 7, you'll notice the next page of your report, it breaks them down. You'll see that those 7 are broken out across the sheriff, juvenile detention, and planning. I put together a summary report for you, just like the other report, except this report is for the year total. Again, we had a total of 212 for the year. Total incurred dollars at this time is $729,371. That broke down across the county as the highway department had 2 injuries this last year. They had $1,690 for those 2. Board of Education had a total of 126 injuries, and the incurred dollars for theirs was $273,856 for the year. For the county, we had 84 injuries, and the total dollars incurred there were $453,824. And the last page of your report breaks down those for the county general, the 84 across the different departments as you see on the last page of your report.
You said that the sheriff had 5 and juvenile detention 1 and planning 1. But, and the total cost was $2,484 or whatever, but back on it.
That's cost per claim, when you break it out, cost per claim, yeah.
Total incurred 17 something.
$17,250 for the,
I want to thank you for sending us that information.
Yes.
I was going to bring that up. During the last meeting, I was asked for some additional information, and I wanted to get it to you before the meeting, so you had time to look at it. I did email it to all the county commissioners, and that was in reference to the question on Board of Education, slip, trips, and falls. Where did those injuries occur? And like anything, you know, most injuries occur just within a small group. We had 5 claims, basically, in the Board of Education that made up 75% of the dollars. And I tried to list where those injuries occurred. And you'll notice that, you know, across the county from that, Board of Education, the school system's 1 injury at a school that occurs, slip, trips, and falls, and things like that. Unfortunately, we did have more out of the main office. I think that's because when you're in the main office, you've got a whole lot of chiefs, not so many Indians, and everybody's looking at their own little area. When you're at the school, you've got a principal overseeing the entire school. It's got hands on there, and so you've got 1 chief at the school controlling things, which does a much better job than what you do when you have a whole lot of people in charge.
You have a lot more square footage too, especially at high schools.
Yes, and they do a very good job, as you can see, at the schools when they have 1 or maybe 2 slip, trip, and falls. And the majority of the injuries from where they occurred were at the either larger schools and things.
But a lot of them were wet floors and slips.
Yes, and I did provide a summary of what they referred to as far as their injuries. That's what they did.
That was interesting, and I may have some questions for them tomorrow night on that, because some of it, I think, gets back to maybe proper footwear, proper just doing things properly.
High heels aren't good when custodians out there doing
Not
a
if you're
floor
gonna,
or
if you're gonna
something.
move something, you need to take off your high heels and put on some tennis shoes.
Well, you know, a lot of the injuries, of course, all gets back to the floors and something getting spilled on them or something like that, and trying to be on top of that, and everybody's looking for it.
Yeah.
I try to make a point of telling individuals that when they do file a report, they are required to have a supervisor's report. And they say, well, why is the supervisor's report important? And the supervisor's report is important because what it does, it makes them aware of the injury, that if you've got a leaky water fountain and the supervisor's made aware of that, the supervisor has certain supervisor responsibility to ensure that that water fountain is fixed, because if not, next week I'm going to have another injury, and it's going to be because of that same leaky water cooler. And we want to make sure that that cooler gets repaired so that we can stop those injuries from happening.
That was very helpful. That was good, very good
Thank you.
information. Thank you.
So often in the school, it looked like somebody did something wrong and the teacher was going to, and that's where it occurred, was water on the floor or Coke or whatever it may be. So, any further questions for Mr. Good? And we'll entertain a motion on his report.
Make a motion to approve the OSHA report as presented.
A motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Let's not cause a fall there because you.
No, that's exactly what I was trying to do that now.
Well, we got the endless service here.
Yeah, that's, good point. He could just grab Mike and say, go over there.
So we got it covered. Okay.
So for the month of December, we had 463 animals that came into the shelter. We had an overall adoption and reclaim percentage rate of 88.4% and a 5% euthanasia rate. If you see down towards the bottom of that page, live release rate for our dogs was 94.7%, cats were 93.6%, and overall it was 93.6% once the wildlife were figured in. We had 78 animals that were reclaimed from our surgery programs and 27 cats in the TNR program. We handled, had 1,681 calls that were received to the shelter, 1,729 calls that were closed out, and we traveled 11,507 miles. On the fourth page of the report, overall for the year, 3,879 animals since the first of the fiscal year. That gave us an adoption reclaim percentage of 74.7%, the euthanasia rate of 8.1%, and a live release rate of 88.1%. Flipping over to our bite rabies exposure and bite report, we had 30 reported bites for the month. 2 of those were sent off for testing, did not come back positive, and we had 14 other exposures for the month. None of those tested. So we finished up the year, the last 7 months of the year basically without having a rabies positive case in the county, which we're excited about.
You gotta be happy with your adoption reclaim rate, don't you?
I'm more happy looking at the euthanasia rate versus the adoption reclaim. We take care of the youth rate, everything else goes out well. I did mention to you all last month something that's on the horizon. There'll be something going out either this evening or first thing in the morning. Our receiving area is being turned our pet help desk or pet resource desk. Either one of those two, starting next week, all animals that come into the shelter will have to have an appointment, whether they're owner surrenders or stray, so that we prevent that long wait line and we have a better handle on what animals will be showing up on that day. Now, of course, an injured animal or a bite case or an animal that has a health issue, those would be considered emergencies and taken in at that time. So we want to get the word out on that over the next 10 days or so and kind of ease into that. We plan to start that on February the 1st, being that it's we're in our slowest period of the year right now, so we can try to get everything as far as kinks worked out before we hit, summer months. But that's coming next week.
Questions, Mr. Gregory?
How many other commissioners help y'all catch dogs and?
Are you aiming to get an animal control officer position? Because I'm interviewing. I thought I had one there. I'm not going to answer that because I probably have forgotten a situation where there has been. But over the last 30 days, I think you might be the one.
Isn't that in the job description for county commissioner?
I think it is, because, we now have a satellite office at Lockport.
At your house?
Not in my house. I spent Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve looking after a trap for paws. So. And we got our animal.
We'll entertain a motion on a report.
Make a motion to approve Mr. Gregory's report as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good evening.
Thank you.
It's the grand finale.
It is. You hear the angels singing.
Really?
Maybe that's me.
Ready? We made 2,933 calls last month, which is up a bit, as you can see. Response time was down 7.7 minutes. We had 67 coroner's calls, and 18 of those were sent for autopsy. We billed $1,550,562 and collected $765,284, which puts us on a projection of $8,273,332, which is significantly higher than was in the budget. At $542,846 write-offs for insurance purposes and $531,877 for collection agency write-offs. We drove a total of 49,975 miles. Average cost per mile is 35 cents per mile. And each of the trucks are broken down there in that table as far as operating expenses goes.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Truck 70. Okay. What's so special about it? That says that it's one that's used all the time, right?
Yeah, all those that are yellow are reserve trucks.
But some of them, one of them there is only has 133,000. Has it been broken and then got fixed, or?
Sometimes that's what happens. It's, you know, if it's been in an accident and it may not drive just as good as it used to. And then sometimes some of the older trucks
Well, I
are
said
favorites.
222 is a lot, because then 150 is supposed to be the, generally, you're,
When they start thinking about it with 150 and we try to get rid of it by 175, but we don't always make that. There's one concern on there that's not a concern right now, but it's going to be at some point. The SR1, the very bottom one, that's our sort truck, the big truck. Getting a lot of miles on it, and we can tell that because we're beginning to spend more and more money having it repaired. And the engine's not what gives us problems, but it's several other things on the truck itself that are taking a beating. Next page is our report on various teams at the ambulance service, as well as our in-services and training. We cover all MTSU basketball games, which weren't so many last month.
on the road all month.
On the road all month. And then we also cover the graduations at MTSU. The next page is actually off of the fire report, the computer software that they do. And the bottom part of that page is the sort team. It just tells you how many calls they made and what kind of general areas they were, what types of accidents they responded to. Anyway, the total was 163 calls for the short team, which is why that truck's got so many miles on it. However, that truck is at least 12 years old, maybe a little bit older than that.
All of those 88 emergency medicals were mostly motor accidents.
Not necessarily. If there's a call that, if the Blackman ambulance is out on a call, and there's another call in that zone, they'll respond as a first responder to it. The next page is our sick hours. I started reporting that to you because we had difficulty explaining to people sometimes when you work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you have a minimum number of employees, then it creates some havoc sometimes. And right now we have 3 people out on Family Medical Leave Act. That is, none of them were hurt on the job, but they're all 3 out. We also have sickness like every other agency does as well. So it makes it difficult. If you recall last year in the budget, we asked for 2 float personnel for each team trying to cover this. And we're getting there, it's getting better. You can see that the response time is dropping because of some of the things we did last year. But we still haven't gotten full staffed. Seems like just exactly when we get there and we think, oh, if we get 1 more, then we'll have 2 leave. So that's still an issue, and I guess it's just going to be an ongoing issue from now on. But anyway, this does impact our overtime budget. Probably within the next month or 2, I'll be coming back to you with a request to transfer some money from our full-time into part-time and overtime, just simply because we haven't had our full-time staff on, and we have been overspending in our PRN and our overtime budget.
The FMLA, is that all just your person, or is it somebody in the family that what your people are having to stay? Or?
It can be either one according to the law. The ones that we have out right now are themselves. We have one person, one of our medics fell and at home, caught herself like this, broke both wrists. So she's out for a while.
She didn't have sick leave?
Well, it doesn't. They use sick leave when they're on.
But it still shows us FMLA and not. Okay. I was wondering if, like, if somebody has a baby, and, you know, at some point in there,
I don't agree
the
with
one spouse,
I don't agree with the law, but the law says that
they get some.
if we have a male employee and his wife has a baby, then he can take off. Actually, in Tennessee, I think it's 14 weeks.
Okay.
But that's not paid, right?
Yes. As long as they have sick leave to cover it, it's
It
paid.
covers it.
I think y'all might have to look at that, but
For the man, husband and wife, huh?
hmm?
Both of them, a husband and a.
We got both working for us.
How much sick leave do each employees get?
The county policy is one day per month.
Per month, okay.
Now, of course, the medics work 24 hours. They don't get 24 hours, but Shonda came up with some kind of a proportion. I think they get, is it 11 and a half or something like that a month?
11.2 hours.
20% of the work week, which
Okay.
is what everybody else is kind of based on.
So it wouldn't really cover the whole 14 weeks, I mean, unless
Well,
it's a long-term employee.
I don't think my wife's going to have a baby, but I have almost 3 years worth of sick leave.
Wow.
That's exactly right. And if you're, you know, unless you abuse your sick leave, the 4 years I worked here, I was in the hospital twice for 2 days, and I think I missed a couple of more days, so maybe 6 days. The rest of it went into, I had it on, you know, it went into my retirement. I had hundreds of hours from the state. I only took sick leave when I was sick. I wasn't sick very often. So I had it if something did happen, and that's true with a lot of them. These employees are dedicated and they have the sick leave, they've earned it.
A lot of your teachers, they'll
Yeah,
say
same
year one,
thing.
they're
They've
going to
got
retirement.
years or so, you know, of sick leave. So they have that sick leave. It doesn't help the scheduling process, but they have it, it's time earned.
And you don't lose it each year, right?
No, you don't lose it, and if you, it's just like Commissioner Gurley said, if you carry it for until you retire, you get credit for your sick leave towards your years of retirement.
That's rare. I mean, general businesses,
Well,
you're lucky if you get
some
any sick
places
time.
let you cash it in, or at least a portion of
Right.
it, cash it in for at regular pay, as opposed to just.
And some of them say you lose it if you,
Yeah,
at
if
the
you
end of
don't
the year.
use it, you're right.
But also, at the same time, I worked 60 and 70-hour weeks and got paid for 37 and a half.
There you go.
Well, I did too, but I didn't get any. I didn't
And
get
that was
any.
true both private and,
Yeah.
The next few things on there are just thank you notes that we received from various things.
Well, I want to say that you guys do a great job. So, I'm proud that y'all are working for our county.
what's it gonna take to get more people, I know you're doing a lot of things with Modelo and some of those high schools and so on to develop interest, and I think that's great. I mean, that's where it needs to start, develop that desire,
I
but
think that's,
is it gonna be a salary increase, pay increase, or is that just part of it?
well, you know, we got a pay increase not too long ago, but on the survey that we did, the pay increase only put us ahead of Bedford County. It didn't put us ahead of Wilson County, or, you know, our big thing is Metro, of course, and I don't think we'll ever be able to pay what Metro pays, but at the same time, I don't think we necessarily need to pay what Metro pays. But the surrounding counties, when they're paying more than you are, that kind of bothers me a little bit that we're in
It
the
bothers me
same
too.
class with some of these other counties.
Wasn't the EMS in the news the other day in the newspaper? Or, I mean, I was reading where, you know, we train them, then they go off to these other places for more pay.
We were at the position last week, the first of last week, that if we could just find one more paramedic, we'd be fully staffed. And then before the week was over, we found out that 2 of them were going somewhere else to work. So that's a continual problem.
I'd like to see you bring whatever you think it's gonna take to us for budget to, and then we can talk about it. Because, to me, a county of this size with as much population growth as we've got, we don't need to be losing those surrounding counties.
But you gotta look what we have and where we get lacking. And the big thing that hurts us is education from the standpoint of what we have to build. And we get no means from the state and no help from them there, so it's all property tax. And that's the only truth we got. And it's the same thing like with the judicial building.
If you're gonna start waiting, how many people want to wait? Our until some of these other things were done this past year, our response time was getting way up there. I mean, how many people want to wait when they're having a heart attack for 10 minutes?
Right.
You're probably going to suffer brain
They don't
damage.
care till they have to have the heart attack.
I mean, I had a friend on Facebook this week who lost a husband because it took so long to get there, to get the services for his heart attack. I mean, not to say that it was you guys, but, time he started having the chest pain so bad, till the deputy that got there and evaluated it, till the ambulance got there, until they got to the hospital, he was dead. And you were there within, I think, 8 or 9 minutes in your response time. And we're talking about a county call, and besides that, it's not like you were sitting beside the ambulance.
I got to emphasize to you, though, that every second that passes from the time someone has a cardiac arrest, our percentage of being able to resuscitate them goes down like you would not believe.
Right.
If we're right there on the scene like we were at the 2 resuscitations we had at MTSU this year, we were right there. We saw it happen. Resuscitated both of them, and both of them were back to work.
Yeah. And my friend said that she was there giving chest compressions, her and her son and all them, until you got there, and y'all did it till you got to the hospital, but it did no good. It just, it was his time, but I'm just saying, time matters.
Time matters greatly.
If we could, I would love to have a EMS station every 5 miles down the road, but that's impossible. But we do need more ambulances on the road. I don't know what it's going to take either, but I'm willing to look into it and I'm willing to talk about more money for it. There's a lot of necessities, departments that the county has, like the sheriff's office. You don't want to fund them until you need them. The EMS department, same way. They don't think about you until they need you in a wreck or heart attack or whatever. And then, we need to convince our public that these are, that they're needed.
Speaking of education, medicine education.
Yes.
I don't disagree with you, but I just said one thing and then one thing. But I think also we need to make it known to the state that certain things there they need to pay their fair share on and not leave it to. We got people, the amount of people that come into this county get a free ride for a year if they have 5 kids in their schools.
Yeah.
They pay nothing. So, it all comes together.
Just
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm just saying.
Well, just like his employees, we train them.
Yeah.
And do all that, then they skip out on us. Loyalty's not there, so it's hard to bring loyalty to people.
Okay. Let's go ahead and we'll take a motion on our report unless there's any further questions, and we have a budget amendment.
Make a motion to approve the report as presented.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
This budget amendment has something to do with what we were just talking about.
I read it.
We have found that probably the best thing that we've done to attract employees is this scholarship. Especially with kids coming out of high school. If we can get them going in the right direction, then they're obligated, if they use the scholarship, they're obligated to work for us for 2 years, and they're more than willing to do that. So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball on this scholarship fund. We need to put $5,000 in it because we know we've got a scholarship bill coming due this semester. We're a little bit behind on some of our public donors, so this is going to catch up. You know, this is not going to end up being an expense, but that's what that's what the amendment is for, is to put $5,000 into our scholarship fund and to take $5,000 out of communication.
You heard the request.
Make a motion to approve the request as presented.
Second.
Further questions? Call a roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes. Almost said Miss Shelton instead of Miss Scarlett. Okay.
I have something I want to talk to you about. Again, pertains back to what we were talking about. For a number of years now, I've been trying to do everything that I could to increase the amount of money coming into the ambulance service. I would really like to see the ambulance service become self-sufficient. I think it can, but I do think that we have pretty much reached the maximum on bringing in our bills for emergency services. We'll bring in more money, but at the same time, our calls are going to go up, and we're going to have to expand the ambulance service. So I don't think that, right now we collect a little over 50% of our budget. I'd like to see it collect all of it. About the only way that you can make money in the ambulance business is by doing convalescent calls, taking patients home from the hospital, taking patients to the dialysis center, and those things. So I've talked to the mayor about it for quite a while and told him kind of what I wanted to do. Brian Gaither is one of our station managers. He came to me, I can't even remember, a couple of years ago. He was taking a class at MTSU and he needed a project to work on. He was supposed to create a business plan. So I challenged him. He asked me if I had any ideas. I said, oh yeah. I said, I want you to do a business plan for a convalescent ambulance service. And he did, and turned it in, and I expect he got a good grade on it. The teacher told him, why aren't you doing this? But I think that we're in a really good position to be able to do convalescent work. I don't think it ought to be done in conjunction with our emergency stuff. I think it needs to be a separate division of the ambulance service. But our expenses would hardly be anything other than personnel right now to get started. And I don't propose that we start with a bunch of ambulances. I think we ought to start with one and see how that does. And if it makes the kind of money that we think it will, then it will be easier to expand that into 2 and so forth. The only personnel that we would need to man one ambulance is 3 people, or was it 3 or 4? 4 people to accommodate the hours that we need to do it 6 days a week. So I'm not asking you for any money tonight. I just wanted to kind of tell you what direction we're going in, and everything else we already have. You know, we have supplies, we have equipment, we've got ambulances that are reserve ambulances that instead of selling them off at the, we try to sell a couple a year, we could keep those and use those in order to get us started, and I don't think we need any other personnel. Brian is willing to kind of head this up in addition to what he already does at the ambulance service. And essentially do most of the work, including answering the phone. For a number of years, we didn't care anything about doing convalescent work, and the reason was because we had 2 convalescent services here in Murfreesboro, locally owned, and they were doing a good job. There wasn't any problem with them. But over the years, what we've seen happen is more and more of these private services from Nashville and other places too are coming into Rutherford County, and they're not even abiding by the EMS regulations as far as convalescent services are concerned. If they're operating in Rutherford County, they're supposed to have an office, a manned office within our county. They're supposed to have a business license in our county. They're supposed to buy their tags in our county, and they don't do that. Not even St. Thomas does that. The only two that really do that are the two that are here. But the two that are here, one of them primarily now is operating somewhere else because St. Thomas is not giving them the referrals that they feel like they need. I don't think we'll have any issue, and I certainly don't want to put any strain on the two local services, and I'm more than willing to go talk to them and to see if we can't come up with some sort of an agreement with them so that we're not going to hurt them, and maybe we can even help each other. But I think that's the way to go. We think we've made a very conservative estimate, but we think that each ambulance would produce how many dollars a year?
How much would, just conservatively, like what was it, about 250,000?
Profit. That doesn't sound like a whole lot, but if this thing expands at the rate that I think it will, I don't think it would be long until the ambulance service will be paying its own way for both services.
At least be paying a bigger chunk, you're saying. We think we could handle it basically in the long run for ambulances that we have that we don't care to, we'd rather not use for the emergency situation.
Yes, sir.
At least it gets, you know, if it expands the way that we think it might, there'll probably be a time when we won't be able to do that anymore, but for right now, yes.
What would be required to be on an ambulance taking people to transport them to?
You'd still have to be
Two of them?
Two of them.
So we would have to find 4 people to do that, and that would probably be the biggest challenge of all. I think we can do it, though.
Any other thoughts on it?
Your income from that, most of that would be Medicare, a lot of it would be Medicare.
So here's what's happening, and I don't mind telling you, I've told everybody else in the world. TennCare doesn't pay hardly anything for an ambulance ride. All these other ambulance services know that, the ones that are in it for profit. So what happens, St. Thomas's, Rutherford's policy is that if they have someone who needs a ride home or someone that needs transfer, so they call it a discharge transfer. If they have a patient that needs that, they have a one-call center, and they call that center, and if the St. Thomas ambulance can take that call, then that's who they give it to, because they have their own convalescent ambulance. If it can't, then they have a whole list of these private ambulance services that they farm it out to there. But these ambulance services, including St. Thomas's ambulance, realize that TennCare is not going to pay them anything. So they find every reason in the world not to be able to take that call. Well, eventually it works its way all the way down to the point they can't find an ambulance, so who do you think they call? They call us. And so we're going over there and making that call. I told you last month we got some money. Well, I told the budget committee last month we got some money from TennCare because of the calls we made.
Well, we had that went through here that.
Yeah.
We collected was $143,000, I think. We collected $143,000 on that. So that shows you kind of how many TennCare calls we're making. The TennCare law says that if you have a patient in the hospital that has to be transferred, there has to be an approval given before payment can be made. But we can't ask for that approval. The only people that can ask for the approval is the hospital. And it just boils down to the people behind the desk just don't have time to do it, so they don't do it. So, you know, it's kind of like now we're just kind of a catch-all for that, and that's what we've been doing, but if we're going to do it, we might as well get paid for it.
Yeah.
Seems like, you want something more from us?
No, I just wanted to-
well, it seems like it's going to be a positive.
It's going to take us a while to get to it, but I do think that probably next month we'll come back with a budget that is, and it's going to be salaries. That's all it's going to be in it, because right now it's not going to cost us anything else.
How many years has it been since you were in the convalescent business? 'Cause I mean, as far as, you know, I mean, I can remember the time when you did everything.
Yeah, we did do it for a long time. I may be mistaken, but I think 1976 was probably the last time we did that. But we did do it from 1972 until 76. Brian has experience working with convalescent ambulances too, which is one of the reasons that kind of put him heading this thing up.
But you're not going to be running, unless the patient goes south, you're not going to be running emergency traffic. You're going to be simply transporting that patient from point A to point B, most of the time from a hospital to a rehab facility.
We figured that we needed to make, what was it, 4 calls per day?
Well, it's like a call and a half, so 7, 8 calls a week or something would pay the.
Would pay for the
expenses.
would pay for the ambulance.
Yeah.
But if you had one dialysis patient, that's 6 calls a week.
Now, would you also go from nursing home back to the hospital, or, I mean, we're talking, I know you're saying hospital list gets to you, but would you contact all the nursing homes?
Oh,
and
yeah.
say,
We would contact everybody, and that's another advantage too, because we know everybody, and they all know us. And
Right.
I mean, if it's a rehab facility, then they have an emergency situation, they're going to call. It's going to be an emergency thing, but if it's a scheduled elective surgery or something like that, then you go as a rehab, as a convalescent.
Okay.
I don't think we'd have any trouble.
Right, so I mean-
One of the people at Stonecrest said that if we would do it, they'd sign a contract with us today.
So they can give us everything out of the hospital, they would give us everything out of the hospital.
I say go on.
Okay. So you look into it more.
We'll bring more information back.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jeff, it's your turn.
Well, we got to go over the main needs. All right, and then
Oh, Vicky's doing it.
if we have Tuesday, May 29th, that will not affect you.
May 29th.
That's because the Monday is Celebration Memorial Day.
Right. For some reason, I already got it set for the 30th, the day, Wednesday the 30th. I don't know if we had talked about it.
We did talk about it, that's what it looked like, and that was because Pettis is, on the planning commission. But he says they meet in the morning on that.
Okay.
Memorial Day is going to be celebrated on the
28th.
28th.
So we do it the 29th,
Well,
okay.
yeah, because the 22nd will be Hillside.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. 29th's good for y'all down there?
Works for me.
All right.
Clears a bit.
Scarlett, if you could put it down to 29th and turn it in.
We'll handle it.
Okay.
Good night.
Any other business? We're adjourned.